Yeah, so this is Friday, the 19th of April, 2024, and I'm at the there's a Palestinian rally here. You've got the Refugees Lives Matter rally, which is not really much. The Assange people are just tidying up and finishing, but this is a vigil for Palestine and Lebanon, and they said to bring your Palestinian flags and your Lebanese flags, but it doesn't look like there's too much of the Lebanese side of things. But it's, yeah, this is the information. So it's a.
Yeah, they do. They put. It's an action group.
They want freedom. The children kill every day. Please, all Cambodia and all everyone, and one freedom and one peace.
Hi everyone, I think we'll get started. If I can just ask, before we get started, if we can please ensure that we're not blocking the footpath behind. We'll just ask if we can spread out horizontally, and if you'd like to have a seat on the floor, we've got a couple of speakers lined up. And we'll also have an open mic session at the end for anyone that wants to share their thoughts. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on Gadigal land. We begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land that we gather here today. We pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander peoples here with us today. This always was and always will be Aboriginal land. Now more than ever, we persist that sovereignty was never ceded. We assert that the Palestinian movement will never stop fighting for land rights, for justice for all Aboriginal deaths in custody, for self-governance, for liberation from settler colonialism. Tonight, we welcome you all to a vigil for Palestine and Lebanon to honor the victims of the Israeli genocide and terrorism. Over the last 6 months, over 40,000 martyrs have been massacred at the hands of the Zionist colonial machine. Let us begin with a minute of silence. Say a prayer or a thought for our martyrs, for our brothers and sisters in Palestine and in Lebanon. Thank you. After 6.5 months of genocide, 195 days of terror on Palestine and Lebanon, tens of thousands of martyrs slaughtered, I, like many others, often find myself at a loss for words. When our right to live is stolen by the very same colonial machine that stole our ancestors' land, the burden of past trauma and continuous violence weighs heavy on our shoulders. 6 months and 76 years of brutal occupation, of land theft, of ethnic cleansing, of apartheid, of settler colonialism, of massacres and genocides. There are not enough words to convey the pain and suffering experienced at the hands of the terrorist state of Israel. In Gaza, Palestinians have been experiencing a second Nakba, one of the most brutal genocides in modern history. The Nakba that surpassed the first Nakba, as Israel continues raging a genocide against the people of Gaza. Close to 40,000 innocent Palestinians slaughtered, 70% of whom are women and children. Forced starvation and famine is now a norm in Gaza, with Israel continuing to block a livable amount of aid from entering, or massacring hundreds that attempt to retrieve flour from an aid truck. Over 70% of Gaza's infrastructure has been obliterated, with tens of thousands of tons of bombs, carpet bombing and raining down a 365 square kilometer area. The Gazan healthcare system has practically been destroyed, cutting off any chance of surviving the daily massacres. Gazan men have been stripped and paraded in the cold elements, tortured and beaten for simply trying to return home. Palestinian women have been raped and exploited, with their lingerie paraded online by the deranged occupation forces. Palestinian children have been left orphaned, starving to death, or burned alive by white phosphorus bombs. Unfortunately, these heinous crimes against humanity do not begin to scratch the surface of what Gazans have experienced and witnessed over the last 6.5 months. In the West Bank, violence and aggression has peaked over the last 6 months, with over 450 Palestinians massacred. Hundreds of men, women, and children are illegally detained under administrative detention. And for those of you who don't know, administrative detention is when individuals are detained without trial or charge. Israel is the only state in the world that illegally detains Palestinian children without trial or charge. And while this colonial tactic of oppression is certainly not new to the West Bank, for they have experienced it for 76 years, however, it has increased exponentially as a ripple effect of the genocide in Gaza over the last 6.5 months. Currently, over 9,500 Palestinians are held hostage in Israeli prisons, receiving the most brutal treatment, torture, rape, medical neglect, and beyond. I personally have family in the West Bank who are suffering from the increased terror over the last few months, of who are beaten, tortured, and illegally detained. The feeling of helplessness, living halfway across the world, contributing tax money to this government that feeds genocide and terror against my family, is beyond fathomable. Israeli settlers or Israeli settler terrorists have been invading the West Bank, committing pogroms, attacking villages, murdering Palestinians, burning houses and cars, and stealing cattle and goods, and continue to act with full impunity. In the occupied 48 territories, Palestinian voices are suppressed, with terror and fear inflicted on Palestinians who dare to speak about the genocide against their own family in Gaza. In South Lebanon, Israeli military activity has forced thousands of people to flee border towns and seek refuge in further north, with heavy bombardments hitting the southern border region. More than 250,000 Lebanese have been displaced from their homes as the armed escalation compounds an ongoing humanitarian crisis in Lebanon. And after 4 years of a severe economic crisis, heavily impacting the Lebanese people in their ability to afford basic goods and services, including food and health care, the Israeli aggression is compounding on top of their already existing humanitarian crisis. Hundreds of Lebanese have been massacred, including many journalists and the most notable 6-year-old Amal Ad-Dur. In total, 17 paramedics and 3 journalists have been massacred in Lebanon by the terrorist state of Israel. The struggle against the depraved Zionist regime is a joint struggle between Palestine and Lebanon. Palestine and Lebanon have a long history of resisting Zionist forces in the region. Their joint history of resistance is intertwined with their joint history of suffering from an illegal enforced entity in our region. Lebanon has long been a place for Palestinian resistance, as they too have suffered an Israeli invasion and military assaults like what we saw in 2006. In 1986, the Palestinian refugee camp in Lebanon, Sabra and Shatila, experienced one of the most brutal massacres in modern history. Close to 3,500 Palestinian and Lebanese martyrs were slaughtered, many of whom were burnt alive. The reason why I share these pivotal points in our history and in our present is a call to action for everyone listening. Israel has a long history of heinous crimes against humanity, and it's about time the entire world wakes up, the entire world is educated, the entire world uses their voices to spread awareness about the 76 years of crimes against humanity. Tonight, we join forces in solidarity of struggle and of resistance. We continue to stand together in our fight against the Zionist regime. We honor and pay respects to our Palestinian and Lebanese brothers and sisters, and we reaffirm our commitment to not let their deaths be in vain, to continue to fight for them in the diaspora, and to remember their stories. For as we have said time and time again, we are more than just numbers. Tonight, we'll be hearing from the voices of Palestinians and the voices of our Lebanese brothers and sisters. I'm honored to introduce our first speaker, a young Lebanese activist who has been a fierce advocate for Palestine and has been volunteering week in and week out. Please welcome Joy Hana.
You have your Lebanon and I have mine, by Khalil Gibran. Who among them dare to say, my life was a drop of blood in the veins of Lebanon, a tear in her eyes or a smile upon her lips? Those are the children of your Lebanon. They are, in your estimation, great, but significant in mine. Let me tell you who the children are of my Lebanon. They are the farmers who would turn the fallow field into garden and grove. They are the shepherds who would lead their flocks through the valleys to be fattened for your table meat and your woolens. They are the vine pressers who press the grape to wine and boil it to syrup. They are the parents who tend the nurseries, the mothers who spin the silken yarn. They are the husbands who harvest the wheat and the wives who gather the sheaves. They are the builders, the potters, the weavers and the bell casters. They are the poets who pour their souls in new cups. They are those who migrate with nothing but courage in their hearts and strength in their arms, but who return with wealth in their hands and a wreath of glory upon their heads. I come to the mic today not sure what I should say, what I want to say, or how to say it. But I know one thing, and that is I'm surrounded by the most passionate people, and I don't want to say activists because I know that standing up for situations like what's happening in Gaza and in Lebanon is more than activism, it is humanity. The oppression of Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, so many countries by the Western governments, and the vile situations that we're facing just demonstrates our humanity in their suffering. Our resistance is humanity. I have been made aware of such grave issues since I was a child, and to me it is still so surprising that I can see hundreds of you here today, thousands at our weekly rallies, and millions on my phone, and seeing so many like-minded, well-spoken, free-spoken individuals. My exposure to this devastating reality was shown to me and taught to me through the song Atuna Tafuli by 5-year-old Remy Bandali, of which the lyrics read, Atuna Tafuli, give us our childhood. بالعيد بنسألكم ليش ما في عنا عياد ولا زينة. On Eid we ask you, why don't we have presents and decorations? أرضي حرية مسروقة, our land's freedom has been stolen. The last two lines were particularly shocking for 7-year-old Joy. Mum, what do you mean they don't have presents? Mum, is it true that their land was stolen? Mum, will someone steal my home? Mum, I couldn't comprehend it. But what was so fortunate in the most devastating way was that I did not need to comprehend it. Like most of you, I did not comprehend it until I hit a later age. For me, I was about 12 years old. And for a regular Aussie household, it is an extremely young age to be involved in the mess of politics. But at the end, the nature of the treacherous world that we live in is an unfortunate fact for all us Arabs who are forced to see this and forced to accept this as our reality, as disappointing as it sounds. The normal day in the life of an Arab child starting school, you'd get awoken by your mother screaming at you, go get dressed, brush your teeth, and after you did that you would walk down to the living room and see Al Jazeera or Al Mayadeen or whatever network your parents chose to watch, with headlines, rising death toll, 30 dead in Israel's rain of bombs in Lebanon. Now going to school after seeing the dead bodies of children who could have been me is something I cannot explain. The conversation wasn't open like it is today. I couldn't just go and speak to my friends about it. I would go and play handball and read my books and think, holding a mirror and saying, why not you? Again, that is something that a child should not have to conjure, but as a Lebanese child, like Palestinian children, we have that ingrained in us. Growing up, if I was given an option to discuss any topic, I would choose the oppression of the Lebanese and the Palestinian, and most specifically the ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people. And I would be questioned, how can you be so passionate for someone who's never stepped foot in these countries? And as disappointing as it is, that is the fact, but my answer will remain and has always remained the same. I am human and I have humanity. I have the privilege of education, freedom and safety. I have everything at my disposal. I have no reason to not be educated. For education does not bring neutrality, it brings resistance, the purest kind. Resistance is justified when Palestine is occupied. Resistance is required when the Arab world is tied. Just like the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians did not start on October 7th, the oppression and massacre of Lebanese civilians did not start the week of October 7th. The Hula massacre, October 31st, 1948. The IDF grouped over 50 men in one building, massacred, bombed the building so the parents couldn't even mourn their own children. September 14, 1982, the Sabra and Shatila massacres, killing upwards of 2,000 Palestinians and Lebanese Shias. In 1985, the beginning of 15 years of Israel's occupation of the Lebanon South. In 1993, the year where the 7-day war in July took place where Israel carpet bombed half of South Lebanon, killing hundreds, injuring thousands, and if the first Hana massacre, which yesterday marked 20 years, which saw the massacre of 116 Lebanese civilians by the IDF. The second Hana massacre, July 30th, 2006, killing over 100 Lebanese civilians, 36 children. The 34 July war in 2006, killing over 1,200 Lebanese civilians, injuring over 5,000. Ayoun bombing in August 11, 2006, the IDF bombed a 700-car convoy carrying 3,000 civilians running from the safety of their Lebanese homes into the Israeli occupation. Take note of my labels. History books identify these as incidences. These are not incidences. These are massacres. They are murders. This is the oppression of the destruction of the Lebanese people, culture and freedoms. Like my Palestinian brothers and sisters, I will continue to fight not only until Palestine is free, until Lebanon is free, until Yemen is free, until Syria is free, until the Arab world is free from the chains that is the Western media, Western governance and Western politics. We deserve freedom and rights, and the world can see us standing up now, calling out this disgraceful situation. It should have never happened. It should have never gone this far. I'm honoured here to stand today as a friend and supporter of so many people and groups that are fighting for the Palestinian and Lebanese resistance. We all see your efforts, whether it be healthcare workers for Palestine, Zadek Collective, Jews for Palestine, seeing us all come together from different walks of life, changes my life and brings me hope and joy for our future generations. I would also like to mention that we live privileged lives. Yes, we do, and we do not suffer an ounce like our Palestinian brothers and sisters, like our Lebanese brothers and sisters, like the children of the Arab world. But we do need to take a second and look at ourselves, look at each other, ask if we're doing okay, and how we can support each other. We are human, and we cannot keep going if we are mentally drained. I would really urge you all to speak to your friends, your family, myself, a therapist, anyone, if you need some extra support during all of these situations. If you do not fight for yourself, you cannot fight for the oppressed. I shall leave you with 3 words: Sharaf, honor; Tathiyya, sacrifice; Wafa, loyalty. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy. In times like this, in times of such pain and suffering and grief, we are reminded that resilience and resistance is the only way forward. And one of the ways that we resist is we pass on to the future generations, we pass on our history, we pass on the symbolism of resilience in our culture, and we pass on the torch of resistance to the next generation. And that's why I'm very happy and honored to announce our next speaker. Marcel Adelli is a 13-year-old activist, I will say. He's been volunteering over the last 6 months, following in his parents' footsteps, and he will be sharing a few words with us tonight. Please give Marcel an extra round of applause and encourage him. It's his first time speaking. Please give it up for Marcel. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Marcel Adelli. Hello, my name is Marcel Adelli. I'm a 13-year-old boy born in Australia to my Palestinian family. I've been to Palestine multiple times, and from what I can remember, it is far different from the life I live now. In my day-to-day life, I get to catch a bus to school only 5 minutes away from my house. I can come home and find a meal to eat, and I'll go to the soccer field with my friends without worrying the world. Our brothers and sisters in Palestine cannot do this. They don't have schools like we do, and if they do have schools, they must deal with the constant worry of attacks made by the occupation. Our Palestinian brothers and sisters won't find a meal to eat as they don't have a house to go to. Houses have been destroyed by the Israeli army. Our Palestinian brothers and sisters don't know what it's like to go to a field and play soccer without worrying about a potential attack from the Israeli government. Us gathered here in Australia can live in a peace and security. In Palestine, they live in a constant fear and insecurity and a daily killing. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thank you.
Our next speaker is a poet, an activist, and is a part of a group called Halal Collab, which won the Bankstown Poetry Slam 2023, held here in Town Hall. Please give it up for Ali Al-Hajj Hussein.
Rahman Rahim, in the name of God, the most beneficent, the most merciful. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be upon you, and may the mercy and blessings of God be upon you too. My name is Ali Al-Hajj Hussein, and before I go into where I am from, nothing I can say in statistics and a necessity of revolution, of resistance, of resilience, I can add to what has been said prior to me. So what I will say is, I am from the land of the stronghold that is Al-Biqa' Valley, near Ba'al-Bak, that hasn't escaped the audacity of the Zionist entity all the way towards the northeast of Lebanon, near the border at Syria. And where our olive tree branches bridge the gap over usurped lands to Palestine, from Al-Janub, As-Samid, the steadfast south. We are gathered to mourn not those whose lives were in vain, but those who raise our sensitivity to pain, not only to those who mourn the loss of tens of thousands of innocent lives, but to confront the harsh reality of the lack of humanity and understanding that led to their martyrdom. Each of these souls deserve more than just our tears. They deserve justice, remembrance, they deserve change. Change comes through support, beyond words. Support via action. Action takes conviction, and action and conviction require education. Let the candlelights remind us of how each person in their own death has shed light, further exposing the crimes of the illegal entity. Let us remember those who are denied their most basic human rights, the right to life, the right to safety, the right to dignity. Let us not shy away from the brutality of their deaths, but instead confront it head on. Earlier today, I was at the funeral of an Irish friend and colleague, an outspoken supporter of the cause and all Indigenous land-back movements. And it reminded me of purpose and a conversation I had with him regarding liberation, overthrowing monarchies, oppressive regimes, and how it is achieved through resistance. And sometimes people try to join or interject, but you can always see them get uncomfortable a few sentences in. And he said to me, Ali, they'll never get it, they'll never understand. And although we see tides changing, we still see this discourse online. Let not our privilege of safety and accessibility be a waste. The pain we feel tonight is not just the pain of loss, but the pain of knowing that these precious lives were lost to the bloodthirst of those whose hearts have been calloused or quieted by cowardice, those whose support and silence has been purchased. They were denied the compassion and understanding that every human being deserves, subjected to unspeakable acts of violence that defy comprehension. Our hearts have ached, are aching, and will continue to ache for those who are robbed of their futures, their families and friends, those permanently affected physically and or mentally. And we ask, how do we mourn a child? How do we mourn Hana, Sabra, Shadila, Hula, every part of Palestine since over 75 years? And how will we ever mourn enough? But let us not stop at mere mourning. We are to channel our grief into action, demanding accountability for those responsible, and challenge the systems of oppression and violence that perpetuate injustice, and build a future where every life is valued and our voices heard, taken seriously and acknowledged before we have to see it live streamed. In the face of such evil, it is easy to lose hope, to succumb to the pressures and despair, but we continue to be inspired by those alive and resisting. And as we leave this vigil tonight, let us honour their lives by working tirelessly to create a world where understanding triumphs over ignorance and towards injustice. Yes, we are marching and mourning in rallies, but at times like these in vigils, we have a calmer demeanour and presents us with an opportunity to soulfully mourn those lost. In a solemn gathering and atmosphere, reflect all that's been lost, all that's been achieved, our efforts, our sacrifice, our privilege, and how we move forward. A reminder of those that have sacrificed their lives, whether involuntarily, or those that gave their life for the cause and will remain a united front against the occupying illegal state of Israel and the supporting governments. And a short extract from a poem I previously wrote. Familiar faces from bombs left faces, so many names to mention, but they'll never be nameless. You'll be hard-pressed to find an immoral state that targets press vests. The media with its reporting shameless, distracting the world, led to solve celebrity riddles. But the lives of the innocents are being riddled with lead. The same ones supporting apartheid reply, our hands are tied when we scream for human rights. Reducing it to issues of apartheid doesn't acknowledge the settler colony. It means granting it legitimacy. Who they're in bed with is what we call political intimacy, because generations wondering when we are victorious between the rubbles and the rumbles and the rustle of the trees. Will my olive trees remember me, or have they been lost, part of the sacrifice and martyrs of this imminent victory? And where have you seen a soil so bountiful in what it bears and burdened in what it has witnessed? A soil nourished by the blood of martyrs whose blood will be the ink used to write the epics of liberation, who willingly gave their lives for the land and those who were killed on it merely for existing. All for the cause, for sovereignty of Palestine, occupied territories of Lebanon, the Golan. And when they ask us to surrender, we tell them our backs neither bow nor bow to anyone but God. We have gathered here for humanity. Our destiny is one, our goal is one, our battle is one. Thank you.
Call to action to everyone walking by. To everyone walking by, you can hear our voices, you can hear what we are saying. You are well aware that over the last 6.5 months, Israel has committed and is continuing to commit a genocide against the people of Palestine. Over 40,000 Gazans have been massacred. And if you live and work in so-called Australia, your hard-earned tax dollars are funding the genocide that has massacred 40,000 Palestinians. Shame! If you are watching the news, there is no excuse left. There is no excuse. Israel's heinous crimes against humanity have been broadcasted to the world. So if you are silent, you are complicit. As you are walking by, we urge you to join our movement and be on the right side of history. Over the last 6.5 months, our community has come together in solidarity of our brothers and sisters in Palestine and in Lebanon. And if there's one thing that these last 6.5 months has taught us, is that the liberation of Palestine is not for Palestinians only. The global movement for freedom and for justice is not for Palestinians only, and it's not for Lebanese only. It is for humans. It is for humans who have a conscience and humans that value the sanctity of life and that live for justice. And so over the last 6.5 months, we have seen people from all walks of life come together for Palestine, come together for Lebanon. And over the last 6.5 months, we have seen many generations in our community volunteering week in and week out to spread awareness and to spread the message of what is the reality of what is happening in Palestine and in Lebanon. Our next speaker is as well a young Lebanese activist, and he has been a fierce advocate for Palestine. Over the last 6.5 months, he's volunteered week in and week out at our rallies. Please welcome Hassan Abdullah.
First off, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge that the land on which we stand was stolen and that sovereignty was never ceded. I pay my respects to elders, past, present and emerging. Assalamu alaikum everyone, peace be upon you. For those who I have not met, my name is Hassan and I'm a proud Lebanese Muslim. My family, both paternal and maternal, hail from a village called Aitarun on the southern Lebanese border. Though a small area in the Middle East, my beloved Lebanon holds immense significance to so many globally. Like many here today, my family has been impacted in various ways over the decades since the violent establishment of the colonial entity known as Israel. When my father was a child, his home was destroyed. When my mother was a child, she witnessed the brutality of Israel's militia in attempts to capture a relative. Over the years, my home village and the southern border as a whole has suffered at the hand of Israel for their resistance, their connection to the land, and their solidarity with our Palestinian brothers and sisters. In the present day, many of my father's brothers and sisters have been forcibly displaced from their homes to other parts of Lebanon for fear of their safety. I want you to understand, they are not business people, nor can they work from home, like we have the blessing of doing. They are farmers, labourers. Their entire livelihoods stem from their connection to the land that they are indigenous to. Being born in the diaspora, I've wanted nothing more than to walk through the land of my ancestors and to be with my family. I have been blessed in life with this opportunity twice, due to the occupation blockading safety. Growing up with conversations about war and occupation within my homeland was something foreign to so many I've met before, and reaffirmed how dissonant the world is. It's something not many could ever fathom, but the reality for so many people in our home countries. It's hard to explain the feeling of seeing people who look like me, sound like me, speak the same language, eat the same food and share the same country as me, being starved, murdered and tortured brutally. This experience is not unique to me, however, but has been experienced by so many Lebanese and Arab individuals, which is why I carry the duty to represent them, their families and the lives lost. Lebanon's fight with Israel is not something new, despite attempts by the Western media to convince you as such. Lebanon has been resisting Israel's attempts to take our land for years, initially in 1948 at the occupation's establishment, and countless instances over the years. June 6, 1982 brought Lebanon and its Palestinian refugees great grief when the Israeli troops landing at the Sidon coast. Their presence in the country resulted in the deaths of over 20,000 individuals, majority civilians, and countless others permanently wounded. The massacre that occurred that day was, and to this day, is one of the most devastating events that the country has ever witnessed. The opposing troops retreated in September of that same year, with their presence still ever present in the south. This came at a time where tension between the diverse ethno-religious groups that settled within Lebanon was at an all-time high, which Zionists profited upon. I bring this up not to overshadow Palestine, or to normalize the atrocities that are occurring, but rather to amplify them. I discuss this to highlight the regional catastrophes occurring at the hand of the occupation. Israel has brought nothing but devastation to the land. I bring this up in discussion because yesterday marked the 28th anniversary of the Hana massacre. I want you all tonight to take a moment to remember the lives lost over the years. Our solidarity with the Palestinian cause will never end, as we are one and the same. We are united in the land of olive trees and za'atar. We have been together in our struggle for 75 years and will continue to be. Today is a reflection that despite many of us coming from different backgrounds and walks of life, we come together to support what is right and are on the right side of history. Free, free Palestine!
Ben-Gurion, the founder of the illegal state of Israel, once said that the old will die and the young will forget. And Noor Ariqat, a fierce Palestinian human rights lawyer, in response to that said, like seeds we grow. And if there's anything that these last 6.5 months have taught us, that the next generation is the generation that will liberate Palestine. The next generation has been equipped by their parents and their great-grandparents and their grandparents, and have learned from the past. They've learned from the Nakba, they've learned from the Naksa, they've learned from the Intifadas, they've learned from the massacres, and they are well equipped, mark my words, they are well equipped to lead us into the liberation of Palestine. And so I'm very happy to introduce our next speaker, a young 10-year-old Palestinian who grew up on Palestinian politics and is a fierce advocate for Palestine. And I call I call him the current Edward Said. Please welcome my nephew, Zakaria Alad.
Before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land on which we meet, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. I would also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of my land, Palestine, and specifically the land of my mother, Araba Janine, and the land of my father, Nablus, and all of my country living under occupation. My name is Zakaria Alad. Some might say, what connection does a 10-year-old boy like me have with Palestine? I was born and raised in Australia, and my parents were born and raised in Kuwait, and even one of my grandfathers was born and raised in Kuwait as well. Even though I am yet to visit Palestine, let me tell you something. Palestine always lives in me! The founder of the criminal state of Israel, Ben Gurion, said the old will die and the young will forget. Let me be very clear, it's been 75 years and we have not forgotten! Every aspect of my life is Palestinian. The Arabic language I speak, the food of my parents and grandparents, the traditions of my people, and the celebrations, the songs, the dances, and me being here today speaking to you represents my dedication to my country and my people. I have a message for everyone here, especially all the kids like me. Be proud of your heritage even when they try to silence you and try to make you feel like you don't belong. Be proud to wear your kufiya with pride. Don't ever be ashamed to speak your mother tongue Arabic, because this is how you connect with our culture and history. Don't ever be afraid to raise a Palestinian flag with honor even when they try to shut you down. Be curious and learning about your history, or chances are they won't teach it to you in school. Learn about the Nakba, learn about the Intifada, learn about our resistance for liberation, and learn about our human rights and why Palestinians deserve to live in peace and harmony. I am a Palestinian child born to Palestinian parents, and it is pure dumb luck that I am not one of the 15,000 Palestinian children that have been slaughtered over the last 6 months. It is pure chance that I am not one of the thousands of Palestinian children that had their limbs cut without anesthesia. It is pure luck that I am not one of the Palestinian children who had their skin burnt by white phosphorus bombs. It is pure luck that I am not one of thousands of Palestinian children orphaned and starved and displaced. So as I stand here in front of you today with a roof over my head, food in my stomach, and a warm place to sleep at night, with 2 living parents, I will not spend the rest of my life letting these 15,000 Palestinian children go to vain. Saying their names and showing their stories will show the world. I messed up something. I will make it the mission of my generation to get justice for every childhood stolen. Before I leave you today, I would like to pay my respects to the children of Gaza, 15,000 of them brutally killed and thousands living in pain and agony, and tell them, we are here for you because your voices can be heard, and one day, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
next speaker, Edward. So if you've been to any of the actions over the last 6 months, whether that's community picket or a vigil or a demonstration, you will see Edward attends every single demonstration, every single action. He has devoted his entire life to the liberation of Palestine, and it is an absolute honor that he is joining us today and sharing a poem that he has written for Palestine. Please welcome Edward.
Came to the marches having no experience of people from Arabic-speaking countries at all, other than the stories that the media, the Western media, politicians, my family had told me. Coming to the marches and discovering it was all malarkey, they were all lies, it was all misleading stuff trying to get me to dislike, to hate, to despise people from that part of the universe. My poem, Sydney's Men of Palestine. What is it I see in Sydney's Palestinian and Arabic-speaking men? While the Palestinian women speak out in protest, I see these men stand by quietly and listen. Respect. Strong, silent, steely, resilient and ready, as stone walls and olive trees upright, present, reliable and steady. Alike airborne geese as they too fly against the wind, in their power will be these men in following steadily, give support that may be felt, held and valued by Sydney's Palestinian and Arabic-speaking women who lead, resist and speak, valued as men of worth with these women equally. In their resistance, foregoing ego, gracefully, honourably. There seems no greater chalk and cheese than how the West lied to and indoctrinated me to see these men as good for little, lazy, risky and untrustworthy. But now my own eyes and ears reveal to me Sydney's Palestinian and Arabic-speaking men that I have seen and met are men of selfless courage, grace and loyalty. Myself is swept by waves of awe and more, as I see the loyalty of these men is pure, wallah. Palestinians all, resisting together as a spider web still constrains, holding, supporting, sacrificing, following and resisting, fighting for Palestinian freedom and the return of Palestine, returned rightfully into Palestinian hands.
Our next speaker, many of you have seen around at the rallies and demonstrations, probably the longest acting advocate and activist for Palestine in Australia, has spent decades after decades fighting for the liberation of Palestine, has devoted his entire life to Palestine. Please give a very warm welcome to Uncle Rahul.
I love that. I really love it. Look, when you live some time, you learn from everywhere. What I learned from my country, I was born in Argentina, was no fight is lost until it's no one fighting. That is the story. Palestine never was that. Always someone come and keep going and keep going and keep going. That is the problem for Israel. Israel is living in a town of lies. Everything that he says are lies. It's a state? No, it's not a state. It's bullshit. To be a state, you have to have connection with the land, connection with the religion, connection. Where connection goes with Israel, with the state, nothing. Another lie. So, what we've seen today is very, very important. They are spending all the capital they have with many of the other countries that are supporting them blind. Germany, UK, US is not Germany, US got their own plan. And the rest of the country, Australia, they are supporting the government of Israel. So, when you are not being supported by your own people, your life is shorter. Your political life is shorter. We saw with a bit of smile about 2 weeks ago an incredible demonstration, the people from Israel burning flags, Israeli flags, and demanding that Netanyahu has to go. Netanyahu has to go. And we don't trust him. We want our hand back. You saw that? I tell you something, doing this here in Sydney, you're going to be in jail because it's a Semitic age. We cannot go against the Semitics, but we can have to go in favor of the justice. No one stopped us to fight and tell the truth to every person. And the lies, no win. So, I got 2 or 3 things that I would like to talk to you, and please listen. The ceremony herald is not precisely the most pro-Palestinian that you can think. But he put an article 1 week ago where it says simply saying the noise that is happening in this country still is not enough to disturb our ego. And I think he's right. He's right. This country is a country that is, they normally what they do, they stand up, say things, and go to the pub to do something. That is what is this country. We have to break that. We have to break that sort of connection. We have to break it. We have to break it because the next is going to be, as you can see, all the people waiting for the labor. What happened with the labor? It's even worse than the labor. This country is exactly that. We have to go back to the people. We need Palestine to be in the schools. We need Palestine to be in the universities. We need Palestine to stay in the working places. We need Palestine to be in every place of Australia. It's impossible because our Constitution says that if you're not Australian, you cannot be in the government. But I propose anyone from Palestine to be my president forever. Any one of you can be president. I vote for you. And if they don't accept you, I will fight with you. Understand? That is the story. We cannot win like that. We cannot wait for someone to do our job. We have to do our job. Our job is not remove Biden. We cannot remove Biden in Australia. But we can remove Albo. That is our strategy. We have to remove Albo. We have to remove any politician almost. Any politician. Remove the position. Removing all the wages that they get for nothing. Out of here! Go to Israel if you like it. We don't need it here. So, and it goes to everyone that he works for them. It goes to the magistrate that discovered that that is no. It goes to the police that start to point against the rallies. It's that for the ministers of the government in this state that says that you're spending too much money because we have to defend you. We don't ask him to defend us. We can defend ourselves. We learn the Palestine. We learn one of the best teachers to defend yourself. Yeah, that's the story. That is the real story. And also the other thing is very important. After the killing of all that group, of the beautiful group of the kitchen, central kitchen, the first person in Australia from the government to say something was in April the 4th, the same day. Anyone says that something is happening and Australia died. That's it. 4 days. Second time, in the same day, the day after, 5 before, criticized Israel. Nothing bad. Tell us what happened. And after that, the best thing that Australia could do for this is propose the magic thing, two-state solution. That is the magic. Every magic person in the world is talking of that. Two-state solution. There is no solution. It was rejected by the Palestinians, by even the Israelis that don't do it. So that is our government. It's beautiful. Go away. We don't need that thing. We have to be clear. And also, I got something. One thing that I want you to think about it when we use it. One thing is this: I'm fighting for this, I'm fighting for that, I'm fighting for that. We learn for the whole history. The Romans used to say when they went to fight for something very important, they didn't come with the hand open. They come with the fist closed. That is fighting. That is fighting. Someone see you with the fist closed, you're gonna think, who are you? And that's what we need. We need to start Palestinian. That is the story, okay? We don't have enemies here, but we don't want friends of Israel. That is the reality that it could change. We have to change what we do. We have to be stronger, and nothing has to stop us to go to Palestine. Thank you.
Part of the reason why we continue to organize actions like today, we've hosted 5 or 6 vigils over the last couple of months, and one of the reasons, which I mentioned early on, is that it is our duty and it is our obligation to keep their stories alive. The terrorist state of Israel may have stolen their lives, they may have stolen their future, they may have stolen their dreams and their ambitions, but so long as we are standing, so long as we have a voice, we have a duty and an obligation to say their names, to share their stories, to spread awareness about the suffering that they have endured, and to not allow their deaths to be in vain. So if you'll allow me, I'd like to share some horrifying testimonies from Al-Shifa Hospital. A few weeks ago, the terrorist occupation forces withdrew after they decimated one of Gaza's largest hospitals, Al-Shifa Hospital, that's been around since the 40s. And the stories that we heard coming out of Al-Shifa Hospital were horrific, to say the least. Quote,
I didn't dare look out the windows for fear of being sniped by the soldiers after they executed a young man next to me when he looked out of the window. We watched as he slowly bled to death in front of us until he took his last breath. No one could save him. End quote. Quote, the soldiers entered the hospital wards and called out to the men through loudspeakers, ordering them to go downstairs. They informed them that they would play hide and seek, and whoever disobeys their orders would be massacred. They deliberately humiliated men in front of their wives. They took us, bound and blindfolded, as a quadcopter drone kept firing heavily in front of us. We stood for about 10 hours when rain poured down our bodies and the cold gnawed at our bones. These are just a few of the horrifying testimonies that we heard from the Al-Shifa massacre, which is now being dubbed as one of the worst massacres in the history of Palestine, resulting in over 1,500 slaughtered or injured. We heard of horrifying stories of Palestinian women being raped in Al-Shifa hospital, and the terrorist soldiers, the terrorist Israeli soldiers, forcing their husbands to watch as they committed their depraved acts against our women. A few days ago, we heard of reports of Israeli drones playing the sounds of babies crying as they attempted to lure in men. And once the men were lured in under the guise of helping a crying baby, they sniped the men. They executed them in cold blood. These are the stories that we must continue to share. It is our duty and our obligation to expose Israel's crimes against humanity, not only for the last 6.5 months, but also for the last 76 years. I've said this before, in 2023, we experienced what many call the great global narrative shift. Because for the last 76 years, Israel and the United States and Western governments and Western media have fought tooth and nail to ensure that the atrocities being committed against Palestinian people are brushed under the rug. This all changed in 2023, and as we enter 2024, we are so much closer to liberation, because with every day that passes, more people are joining our movement, more people are joining the global intifada, more people are opening their eyes, finally, for the first time in 76 years, and are seeing that the terrorist state of Israel is nothing but a depraved, psychopathic, abnormal state, and it will be brought down. It will be dismantled, and we will see a free Palestine, but not from governments. The people on the ground will liberate Palestine. I'd like to now open it up to the crowd for anyone that would like to share any thoughts or your feelings as well about what's happening or what's been happening over the last 6 months. Now is your chance to share some words and let us all connect and let us all heal and let us all be strengthened by each other so that we can continue in the fight for liberation. So I'll now open it up to the crowd if anyone wants to speak. The government continues to make their genocidal stance crystal clear. Why do we keep showing up to actions? Why do we continue to host vigils and demonstrations and community pickets? And there's a few reasons for that, but one of the most important reasons is by showing solidarity to our brothers and sisters in Gaza and our brothers and sisters in South Lebanon. A few weeks ago, a young woman commented on a video that we shared about an action in Sydney. And she wrote, I quote, "From Gaza, thank you, we see everything that you do." To me, this comment alone is enough to keep me going for a lifetime. Because if the people in Gaza who are experiencing a genocide, who are enduring the worst forms of human agony, are still resisting, and they are still standing, we have an obligation to resist 10 times harder. We have an obligation to share their stories, to broadcast to the world the heinous crimes committed against them, and to use every opportunity we have to grow the global movement for the liberation of Palestine. And the second important reason why we need to keep showing up is the impact these last 6 months have had on our 76-year-long history of occupation. For the first time in 76 years, the spotlight is finally on Palestine. For the first time, Israel's decade-long crimes are finally being exposed. More and more people are joining our movement, and more governments are slowly making Israel the pariah state that it is. And as we continue to expose the terrorist state of Israel, we continue to educate the masses, we continue to put pressure on our governments all around the world to cut ties with Israel. We continue to put pressure for governments to place an arms embargo, to sanction Israel, to boycott, to divest. We are a resilient people. Unfortunately, we are facing this alone. The only thing we have is our resilience and our resistance. Long live Palestinian resistance. Long live Lebanese resistance. Long live the fight against the terrorist regime of Israel. Hello. All right, I would like to welcome a dear friend and a creative for Palestine, I would say, who has used these last 6.5 months to connect with the community and to come together in spaces of healing, to create art through solidarity. River will be sharing a poem that she wrote about Palestine. I'll let River introduce herself.
Actually, so I'm Arab and Ethiopian and Irish. So resistance is in my blood. It's in my bones. It's in the breath that I draw. But I am also human. So resistance should be part of being human, part of humanity. When powers that be take the things that allow us to be free or impose things that take away our freedom, humanity should be what leads. I'm going to read a poem from a beautiful woman who did a reading at Hawiyati's last event and Bankstown Art Centre. I'm going to read a poem by Rauda Al-Shroof. Also, my pronunciation sucks, so you'll have to forgive me. There is a sharp and loud noise. There is a sharp and loud noise. And the buildings collapse around me. Yo, Mama, I'm so scared. Oh, Mama, the air that used to give me with breath now slowly suffocates me. The beautiful soil of our beloved Palestine, which had raised such beautiful food for me, now lays before me barren and without sustenance as they attempt to starve me. Their poison seeps into the soil, Mama, like the blue ink that seeps into our skin, marked with our names and wrote shakily across our backs, arms and legs. Ya Mama, Wallah, we love life, so why do they tear us from us so viciously? These videos mar and tear at my mind with the sharp claws of grief, guilt and anger. Oh Mama, what must I do to get the willingly deaf and blind to remove their blindfolds and earplugs that they have tightly wrapped? To finally hear our cries for life as they continue to rain death upon us and our dear Palestine. Oh Mama, they may kill us and starve us, but the world now sees as the blindfold has finally been pulled away from their eyes. Oh Mama, as our tears continue to trace the path between the river and the sea, I dream of the day my grandfather can return to our Khalil, to resume the childhood he was stripped from. I dream of the day my grandmother could retrace her footsteps back from Amman to Gaza to greet her sister, whom she misses dearly, to walk together and greet her aunt in Ramallah. I dream of my grandmother reaching her home that once stood in the beautiful city of Al-Rumma, returning to her seven-year-old self, surrounded by her family who have long passed, smiling happily, being forever oblivious to the cruelty and hate around her. I dream of the day my siblings and I could trace those very same steps of my mother, my father, and my grandparents, to trace their journeys from Jenin to Khalil without the guns, the checkpoints, and the death. I dream, but it's only time before it becomes reality. Because a thief who only knows destruction can never occupy my blood and soil, they can never occupy my land, no matter how much they destroy. In the hearts of those who cherish liberty, the spirit of resilience thrives. From the river to the sea, it's Palestine. From the river to the sea, we will be free.